I've been thinking about what it means to become the man that you want to become, and it's left me with a few questions. Is it about being more masculine? Is it about being more confident? Or is it about being more cold and emotionless, or learning how to manipulate people? I think it's about becoming strong internally. It's about being able to handle rejection without losing yourself, without being obsessed about the person, having ambition without needing that constant validation. So in this video, I'm going to give you 10 practical things that can help you become the man you want to become. Not a perfect man, just a stronger, more well-grounded person. So number one is learning how to tolerate uncertainty. A huge amount of anxiety is working out whether a person is truly interested in you. So you meet someone you like, maybe she laughs at your jokes, maybe you're talking for half an hour, maybe it seems to be going well, and she even might seem nervous around you. Suddenly your brain wants to answer, so it wants to fill in the gap. Does she like me? Was that flirting? Did I do something wrong? And before you know it, you're trying to solve a mystery that may not even have a clear answer yet. You don't have to solve that mystery. Instead of asking, what does this mean? You should learn to say, I don't know yet. Maybe she's attracted to you, maybe she isn't. Maybe she's interested but uncertain herself. You don't have to decide immediately. Let that behaviour that she's displaying over time give you information, because that's what the one thing you need. You need information. A confident man, it doesn't need to solve every mystery. He can live with that level of uncertainty. Number two is stop trying to turn attraction into a verdict. If you like someone, it's easy to become obsessed with figuring out whether they like you back. But there's a more useful question. It's not have I proven that she likes me, but the question you should be asking is, does she actually want to spend time with me? If she wants to see you, make plans. If she responds enthusiastically, then you can continue. If she initiates and invests, that's useful information for you. If everything remains unclear, give it some room. And this is some big advice from a person like me who has lived in uncertainty for a while with multiple different people, because it's quite addictive living in that space of uncertainty, because it's quite it's like a cushion. Because human beings are complicated, let's be honest. So you need to stop chasing that verdict. Look for what someone is actually choosing, because there's always a choice, and uncertainty means that the choice hasn't been made. Number three is learning to recognize reciprocity. So there's not much use in learning about female psychology. Instead, you should be asking yourself, does she initiate conversations sometimes? Does she ask questions about you? Does she remember things you've told her? Does she make an effort to see you? Does she suggest plans? Does she create opportunities for you to spend time together? Does she gradually become more open with you? Does she make her invest clearer as things develop? Does she make her interest clearer as things develop? Those patterns matter. We often look for little signs like, oh, she smiled at me like that. One long conversation doesn't tell you everything, or one smile. One look across the room definitely doesn't give you a complete picture. But consistent reciprocal investment tells you considerably more. And this principle applies everywhere. If you're always the person texting first, organising everything, asking all the questions and trying to keep the relationship alive, you got to pay attention to that. Healthy relationships generally involve some degree of mutual effort. So that doesn't mean everything has to be perfectly 50-50, because it's never going to be like that. Sometimes you'll give more, sometimes the other person will, because of energies and how we're feeling at the time. But over time, there should be a sense that both people are actually want that connection. And if there isn't, don't automatically assume you just need to try harder, because then you're constantly in that loop of push and pull. Sometimes the answer is simply that the other person isn't investing at the same level. A mature man will recognise that without becoming bitter. He doesn't need to convince someone to reciprocate. He finds the people who naturally do. Number four, don't make someone else's ambiguity your project. This is something thoughtful and analytical people can really struggle with. You can become fascinated by another person's behaviour. You remember those conversations, you replay moments, you think about what they said 3 weeks ago. You analyse the facial expressions, so you're over-analysing things. You wonder what the friends know. You try to understand the social dynamics around them, and that's quite a lot. That's like quite frustrating, especially if you've only got one side of the picture. Eventually, something that started as simple as becomes a full-time investigation. The problem is that you can spend 6 hours reconstructing someone's behaviour and still have absolutely no idea what they were thinking, because you don't have access to that internal world. You're working with clues, and clues can be interpreted in multiple ways, so you need to reclaim that attention. You can say something like, I don't need to know exactly what this person feels in order to decide how I'm going to behave. That's incredibly freeing. You don't need to know whether someone secretly likes you before you can be respectful. You don't need to know whether they'll change their mind before you accept the current decision. You don't need to know why someone became distant before you give them space. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is stop being the investigator. Not because you don't care, but because you care about your own peace too. And that is about creating healthy boundaries. Your attention is valuable. Don't spend all of it trying to gain access to somebody else's mind. Number 5 is quite a practical one. When you apologise once, then change. One of the things that separates mature men and immature men is the ability to take responsibility. You're always going to make mistakes. You're going to wish you said something differently. Sometimes you'll hurt someone without meaning to. Sometimes you'll cross a boundary. The answer isn't to pretend you're perfect. The answer is to own that thing that you've done. If you've done something wrong, just apologise. Be specific. Don't make the apology about how terrible you feel, because then it's pointing towards you. Don't demand forgiveness. Don't turn it into an argument about your intentions. You can simply say something like this: I understand what I did was wrong and I'm sorry, I won't repeat it. And then the important part begins. You begin to change your behaviour because you've spoke that into your conscious mind. An apology isn't supposed to be a strategy for getting someone back into your life. It's supposed to be an acknowledgement of responsibility. I've done this and I'm sorry. And then change. If someone doesn't want to contact with you anymore, you have to accept that. As hard as it is, you have to accept it. If they need space, give them that space. If you've crossed a boundary, respect that boundary. You don't prove you're a good person by repeatedly explaining your intentions were good. You demonstrate who you are through what you do next. A strong man isn't someone who's never made mistakes. He's someone who can look at his mistakes honestly, take responsibility, learn from them and behave differently afterwards. That is real growth. Number 6 is understanding the difference between confidence and insistence. This is a massive distinction. So, confidence will say, I like you, I'd like to take you out. If you're interested, I'd love that. Insistence says, I know there's something between us, you just need to realise it. So the second one sounds a lot more selfish and a lot more self-absorbed and a lot more provocative. They might sound a bit similar. They might both sound confident, but the first person is expressing what he wants. The second person is trying to make another person validate what he wants. Real confidence leaves the other person free. You can be direct without being demanding. You can flirt without pressuring. You can express attraction without feeling entitled to that reciprocation. And you can hear no without turning it into a personal battle. That's what confidence actually looks like. It's not walking into every room believing everyone should want you. It's being comfortable enough with yourself to say, this is what I want. And then accepting that another person gets to say, that's not what I want. You don't lose your masculinity because someone doesn't choose you. You don't become less confident because she rejects you. In fact, being able to respect someone's decision without becoming resentful is one of the clearest signs of emotional strength. You can want something really strongly and still respect someone else's freedom. That's not weakness. That's self-command. Point 7 is don't let your rejection become a referendum on your worth. So this is one of the most damaging habits a man can develop. Someone rejects you, and instead of thinking, we're not compatible, your brain says, I'm not attractive enough. I'm not interested enough. I'm not masculine enough. I'm not successful enough. There's something wrong with me. Rejection doesn't necessarily mean any of those things. Someone can think you're attractive and still want to date you. Sorry, someone can see you as attractive and still not want to date you. This is a big one. Someone can think you're funny and still not feel that chemistry. Someone can genuinely like you and still not want a relationship. Someone can think you're a great person and simply not see you romantically. Because compatibility isn't a ranking system. Dating isn't a scoreboard where one person wins and another person loses. Your goal shouldn't be to become so impressive that nobody ever rejects you. That's impossible and that's draining. Your goal should be to become a man who can experience rejection without losing his sense of identity. You can be disappointed. You can feel hurt. You can need time to process it. Because emotionally strong doesn't mean pretending you don't have feelings. It means your feelings don't dictate your behaviour. You can feel rejected without becoming desperate. You can feel embarrassed without becoming bitter. You can feel sad without deciding your entire future is hopeless. Eventually, you learn something incredibly important. You learn that someone saying no to you doesn't actually mean that you're not good enough. It means they're saying no, that's all. Don't turn one person's preference or decision into a judgment on your entire existence. Number 8 is build a life that doesn't revolve around romantic validation. This might be the most important practical advice in the entire video. So you need things in your life that matter even when nobody is interested romantically. Build your career, get physically strong, develop friendships, learn something difficult, make music, read. Do things that inspire you and help you widen your horizons, travel, build a business, create something. This is something hugely undervalued in a place where, in a world where romanticism is fantasized to the nth degree. So look after the people you love, develop your character, become competent, have goals that genuinely excite you. And then you will find happiness in romance, because romance isn't the source of meaning in your life. Or else every interaction starts carrying way too much weight and you suddenly start becoming fixated on things. A woman smiles at you and suddenly your entire day is amazing. A woman ignores you and suddenly you feel worthless. That's how we get into limerence, guys. Someone responds quickly and you feel validated. Someone takes hours to respond and you start questioning your sanity. That's a dangerous place to live in, and I've been there. Romance should be part of your life. It should be an addition. It shouldn't be the thing that determines whether you believe your life is going well. The more meaningful your life becomes independently of dating, the healthier your relationships can become. You're no longer approaching someone because you need them to make you feel valuable. You're approaching them because you genuinely like them and want to get to know them. And that difference women can feel. It's completely different. Build a life you don't need to escape from. Then invite someone into it. And that leads me to point 9, which is become socially courageous, not socially calculating. It relates to the last point. There's a difference between being socially intelligent and being socially obsessed. Social intelligence means paying attention. Social calculation means constantly trying to predict and control the outcome. Instead of spending weeks wondering, does she look at me because she likes me? Sometimes just take a small risk. If you've been talking to someone and enjoying the connection, say, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Would you like to grab a drink sometime? That's it. No elaborate strategy. No manipulation. No need to create the perfect moment. You simply express your interest. Maybe she says yes. Maybe she says no. Great. Make the date if she says yes. Enjoy yourself. But if she says no, don't be down about it. Just say, no worries, it's good to see you. Be a man of your word, and you continue living your life. That ability to say yes and no is incredibly valuable, because courage doesn't mean knowing you're going to succeed. Courage means being willing to act when you don't know the outcome, and that's quite powerful. So the same thing applies outside of dating. Ask for the opportunity. Yeah, you don't ask, you don't get. Start the project. Speak to the person you've wanted to meet. Apply for the job that you want. Try that new hobby. Say what you actually think. You will sometimes fail. That's life. You will sometimes be embarrassed. That's life. You will sometimes get rejected. That's also life. Good. Deal with it. My final point is keep your warmth, and this is the one I really don't want you to misunderstand. When you hear advice about boundaries, confidence, self-respect, and needing validation, they can sometimes overcorrect. What I mean by that is people suddenly think, oh, I need to become cold, I don't need to show emotion, I don't need to chase, I don't need to compliment, I don't need to be vulnerable, I need to be detached. I don't think that's the answer. I really don't. Emotional strength isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to experience emotion, confront those emotions without being controlled by them. If you're naturally warm, keep that. If you're enthusiastic, keep that. If you enjoy making people laugh, keep doing it. If you're affectionate with people and you love it, don't be ashamed of that. If you care deeply about someone, that's not a weakness. The problem isn't caring. The problem is when caring becomes desperation. People feel that. The problem isn't affection. The problem is when affection becomes entitlement. The problem isn't wanting someone. The problem is when wanting someone makes you ignore their boundaries or abandon your own self-respect. You don't need to become colder to become more grounded. You need to be able to say this: I care about this person, but I don't control them. I want this relationship, but I don't need it to prove my worth. I'm disappointed, but I can handle disappointment. I love deeply, but I can still walk away when something isn't healthy. That's strength. So being able to have X, but still do Y. So if you take anything from these 10 points, let it be this: becoming the man you want to become isn't about becoming perfect. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's not about becoming so attractive that everyone wants you. It's not about learning to manipulate women or decode every single signal. It's certainly not about becoming some character you've seen on the internet. It's about becoming a man you respect, a man who can tolerate uncertainty, a man who looks for reciprocity instead of obsessing over clues, a man who takes responsibility when he gets things wrong, a man who can express what he wants without demanding that other people give it to him, a man who can hear no without turning it into hatred or self-hatred, a man who builds a meaningful life outside of romance, a man who is courageous enough to take risks, a man who stays warm without becoming dependent, and most importantly, a man who can care deeply while still remaining in control of his own behaviour. Because I think that's the real goal. It's not, I don't care what happens, but it's more like, I care about what happens, but I know I'll be okay whatever happens. That's a much stronger place to live from. You don't need to become invulnerable. You need to become resilient. You don't need to stop wanting things, because we're human and we all want things. You need to become capable of handling disappointment. You don't need to stop loving people. You need to love them without trying to control them, if that makes sense. And you just don't need to become someone completely different as well. You need to be yourself. You need to take the best parts of who you are and build discipline, boundaries, courage and self-respect around them. Because the man you want to become isn't necessarily waiting somewhere in the future. He's built through the choices you make today. How you respond to rejection, that really explains a lot about a person. How you respond to how people treat you. What you do when nobody is watching. Whether you keep your promises to yourself. Whether you take that responsibility. Whether you have the courage to say what you mean. Whether you can walk away from something that isn't right for you. Whether you can keep going when things don't work out. That is how character is built. One decision at a time. So don't spend your life trying to become the man everyone else will approve of, because the man you can genuinely respect when you're alone with yourself is the man you want to be. At the end of the day, that's the relationship you're going to have for your entire life. And if you can build that relationship properly, everything else becomes a lot easier. If you got any value from this video, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.